Hello, Drunk Duckers. This is the Drunkduck Quackcast. I'm Ozone Ocean. With me is Baines and Tantz. Hello.
Hello. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy holidays. Oh, that's the other one.
That's too early, but it works.
And welcome to the Drunkduck Quackcast. This is Quackcast number... Oh, goodness me, what's the number? 659. Ooh, we're getting close to this. 660. That'll be fantastic. So, then we can get on to the 666, which is, everyone's favourite number. Can't wait for that one.
That's a good point. We'll be talking about evil on that one.
Yeah. Evil, devil, number of the beast. Yeah.
We will. That's exactly what I'm looking forward to talking about.
So that's about a year away.
Yeah. It would be like. Do you think it could still be in October? That would be super.
Great.
I wish, but since we're at 659 now, that's
Probably not. Yeah.
We'll be around March, which is my birthday.
Oh.
Wow.
Nice.
Well, then that's very appropriate. The number of the beast.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Bad seed.
March. Let me see real quick, because if it is carnival season,
Okay. It might not be March. I just kind of took it.
as close as we get to.
It might be April.
Well, while you're doing that, I will transition over to introducing the Drunk Duck featured comic for the week, which was Dum 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 The Spook Control. So I'm going to tell you about the Spook Control now. Hello, I'm Ozone Ocean, and my feature for the week was the Spook Control. Hudson and Pete are working as Ghostbusters of a sort. Not with proton beams and high-tech traps, though. They're using old-fashioned traditional methods and having a good old chat with the ghost in order to work out why it's still in the world of the living so they can help it cross over. It's an interesting and unusual job. These ghosts have all sorts of different ways, behaviours and needs, but every time Hudson and Pete handle things with grace and aplomb. This is a ghost story, comedy, webcomic. The art is heavily stylized in a cartoonish fashion, featuring black and white and colour pages. So you've got a good little mixture there. Starts off with black and white and then transitions to colour in the later pages. So you get to enjoy a bit of both worlds and really drink in the style and the lovely drawing methods that are employed by MSK314, who created this comic. It's rated E for everybody. It looks really good. I hope you enjoy it. And that was our featured comic, which was the Spook Control. Very appropriate for this time of year. And I wish I could say I definitely did that deliberately. I picked that one out just because it would be, a whole Halloween thing. But I didn't. It's just a coincidence.
That's great. So, a fine coincidence. Worked out.
Yeah, it did. Okay, so the featured music now, it's coming up. Gumwallis has given us a great little theme as always, and the theme that I will tell you about now is History. Full title of the comic is History, an intimate little epic fantasy. And this music I would describe as a royal fanfare, trumpets, the arrival of this epic beginning, hinting at big things to come, and adventure in mist-shrouded lands of high mountains, deep valleys, and shaded forests. So take it away, Gumwallis, with your theme to History, an intimate little epic fantasy. And that was the featured music to the comic called History, which you should go and have a look at it. It's a comic by Slick Puppy, and it's rated M for mature. Alright, the Quackcast. So, oh my god, so much preparation goes into this Quackcast to work out what the topic's going to be. You know, we write scripts. Baines writes like 5 scripts, and I reject them all before telling him to, you know, go back and revise them again and then reject them. And it's a nightmare, Baines, isn't it? It's a nightmare.
Absolutely.
It's a surreal dream of a nightmare.
It's a hellish nightmare from which I shall never awaken.
Exactly, just having to redo these things and get them rejected and redo them. And Tantz as well, I force her to also undertake this terrible nightmarish task, and she completes it with aplomb, and yet I still reject them all the time, and I have great joy in doing it.
I have to edit everything, and nothing gets ever finished.
Exactly. So, instead of talking about the terrible rejected scripts that you guys keep submitting to me, we're going to talk about the other part of this scenario, which is horror and dreams. And all that kind of stuff. See how I just segued into that? It's genius, isn't it? Amazing.
Not bad.
I'm just reading Baines' script, so you can blame me if that's terrible. You can blame him if that's terribly done. So.
We're just going along with it so that we don't have to do anything. So.
Exactly.
Alright, so yeah, horror and dreams and all that kind of stuff, it all works together, doesn't it? In a magnificent way. And anything that evokes a kind of dreamlike horror feeling as well also sort of gets lumped into that category and fits with it quite well. And we were talking earlier about the idea of dreamlike scenarios that are only slightly different from reality in some way. There's only something skewed or something slightly wrong, and it makes them immeasurably more horrific and scary, doesn't it? Rather than something that is totally alien and scary. If there's only just one. So like the kids...
Like it cuts deeper, yeah. Like I don't know how... There's an art to it, I'm sure, and it's a subtle thing, and it might not work, super reliably, but what does? But yeah, I think that's something subtly wrong. So people don't even necessarily know why they're unsubtle. So that, I would say, cut more deeply if you want to unsettle people or create that kind of nervous dread.
Tantz.
Uncanny Valley stuff a lot, yeah.
What stuff?
Right.
Uncanny Valley, in the sense that...
Oh, Uncanny Valley, yeah.
Yeah, it feels familiar, but it's not familiar, and that is scary, because you should feel safe in your familiar place, and you can't.
Exactly. And you had brought up the idea of Coraline as well, which was a good example. So Coraline gets transported into this weird dream world, and it seems to be that her mother's there, and her mother loves her, and, like her family's there, but they've got buttons for eyes, and that's just so scary. Just having buttons instead of eyeballs. Oh my god. It's freakishly terrifying. So yeah, and anything that's Uncanny Valley, those when animation got so good that, these kind of characters would also almost look like real people, but they're not, because the animation's not quite so good. So think of Tron Legacy with who's the actor in that? They did a digital version of this famous actor who was in the original Tron, and he also did a cameo in Tron Legacy. And there was a version of him that still looked like he did from the 80s when they had originally done Tron, because they used digital animation to do his face, but it doesn't look real. Jeff Bridges, that's right, Tantz. And it's creepy and scary because it's so weird. And say the Luke Skywalker guy in The Mandalorian, Like, it's almost convincing, but not quite. It's not quite real. It's just a bit unsettling. So, yeah. And AI art in general, I think, fits into this. Because it's like art by a real person, but it's not. And you can... Once you know what to look for, you can almost always tell that this is AI fake art. And it gives me the freaking creeps. All AI art. Just...
Yeah.
It is a horror movie.
It feels like something that is trying to emulate you doesn't quite understand you and produces something that is coming close, but it doesn't understand you, so it doesn't have the logic that you recognize, even if you are not paying attention to it. So
it is. It's alien. It's an alien intelligence trying to understand.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. It produces this weird thing, this weird artificial reality. And I hate it so much.
That's why, in my opinion at least, body snatcher tropes can be very, very scary and creepy, because you have a familiar person or a character, and then they get body snatched, and someone else to them, and they are not them, but they are them. Like, they look like themselves, but they are totally not them. And if you have actors that can pull it off, it feels really creepy that they are completely different people with the same face. So.
Oh, yes. God, yeah, that's freaking creepy.
Very scary. Yeah.
Terrifying. Yeah, the impersonators, the body snatchers, and it goes back to, like, in history, like mythology, I suppose, with the doppelganger.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was going to say doppelganger is very, very dread-inducing genre or trope or whatever. I love it. So.
The mirror people.
Scary.
Oh, well, not that's not a movie. That's a concept of any.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's an old fear. Like, anytime you look into a mirror, maybe though the people you're looking at will move in a different way, and there won't be an exact reflection. Maybe they'll blink. Oh my God, the idea is terrifying.
That's
a very scary idea, and it happens to all of us.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, if you look at the mirror at night, like without full illumination in the room, you will get that kind of an effect, because
looking one now.
Yeah, it's guaranteed. I don't recommend it if you spook easily, but you will get this feeling that it's not exactly the same person looking back at you. If it is in like a dark lighting, not quite strong enough for all the details to be reflected. So,
especially with me looking the way I look at the moment, that is, if you see our Patreon video, which you are free to do this week, you'll be able to understand.
I did, like I said, I did scare my mom, although I am the most reasonable of the three. When you see the video, still I scared my mom because the way I did the makeup is super not like me. I would never wear this makeup normally, and it feels I look very dead in the room. If you are in the room with me, I look very dead and still very creepily, like with very bloodshot eyes and stuff, which doesn't show, unfortunately. So she got creeped out. Like, she said, "Oh, okay, yes, Go. Thank you.
Well, I'm just peeling the paint off my face because it's really annoying me.
Oh yeah, gotta be. We'll get to you after a while.
Yeah.
The classic short story, Young Goodman Brown, is. I don't know if you guys have read that. You can read it online. Stephen King said it was the greatest horror short story, American short story, and it's kind of about that. Like in the end, it's like what you see. Goodman Brown realizes that what he sees, everyone he lives with in his little town, are not what they seem. Not to spoil too much. But, I don't know if I would have. I'm no critic. I don't know if I'd call it the greatest short story I've ever read. It's kind of about that, though, and it's very, sort of that highest level of horror and dread that we're talking about.
Really?
You can't trust what you see and what you know. That's such a scary idea.
Wow, I haven't read that, and yeah, jeez. That's an interesting one.
So, back when I was in college, and we were doing experimental psychology, I was called the psychology department scarer because I was doing this one study on memory and fear. And part of the experimental design was that I had to instill some level of fear and intimidation in the participants before they took a memory test.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You've never told us this before. This is very interesting.
Oh, really? Oh. Yeah, it was super fun for me. Because what I had them do was to supposedly, and they didn't know that they were going to be scared, although eventually, the word got out that she's going to scare you. But go, because for me, get approved for this, because it has to be ethical, all that. After you finish the actual experiment, you have to sort of wind them down and reset the participant. Like, you cannot leave them scared. You have to have them live content. So at the time, the Shrek DVDs had come out, and they had this Puss in Boots, these boots are made for walking clip that wasn't really widely available. And it had this animation of Puss in Boots strutting along with a lot of boots following him and stuff. And everyone lined up. I got I think 300 people, which at the time and for undergrad was huge as a number, to participate in my experiment from all over campus just because they wanted to see that clip. So I got to scare a lot of people. And the way I did it was I told them that you're going to answer a questionnaire. And the questionnaire had images of things that we know from research are very intimidating to people, like amputations.
Ew.
Or, things like sudden death and stuff like that. And it was shown without warning. And it was pretty creepy. And I had one that was regular, and it didn't scare you at all, so that was my control. And the result was that our memory gets super warped, even at the tiniest bit of intimidation, or scare, or fright.
Oh.
So, yeah, because my point for all this was to see the effect on memory. And it's not, we don't forget what we are scared, but we remember very different things. So they tended to remember fewer things, but more vividly and more accurately than the control that remembered in the average way people remember.
Okay.
So yeah, they would remember everything that had to do with preserving themselves. Relevant words that were, about mitigating the effect of being scared of an amputation, being scared of a murder, being scared of all of that. But anyway, everyone came in to be scared voluntarily, just to see a clip. Yeah.
That's an interesting subject, then fear and being scared. Do you know what? There was a study that I heard about. I hadn't read it personally, but I had heard reporting on it that there are certain people who are born without the ability to feel fear. It's a mental defect. It's a handicap, because if you can't feel fear, then you're probably going to die much sooner than other people, because you'll do things that there's things you should be scared of because they can lead to death.
Yeah.
Many things, most things.
Yeah.
And these people haven't got the ability to do that. But they, in the course of this study, they're able to work out actually a universal thing that makes everyone scared is lack of oxygen. Because it bypasses that part of the brain that's damaged, that is able to, that induces fear. And this is goes into a new pathway that's probably older and simpler, that makes people feel fear, because obviously the need for oxygen is something that all life needs. Well, almost all life needs, especially complex life. And so, yeah, that's something that's in humans, at least, it's a universal fear, and probably other animals require oxygen as well. So there you go.
Yeah.
You could have just choked them out, Tantz.
I was going to say that Tantz with like people who are resistant, she would just choke them.
Yeah. That's exactly, like I just pulled a bag over their heads.
Oh my god, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to do a really scary comic, just have it so it sprays their mouth, nose with some sort of paste, and they can't breathe. No, let's not go there. That's awful.
But yeah, the way that we act when we are afraid is, first of all, fascinating, but very specific. The entire, like our entire being shifts gears in pretty much everything. It's amazing.
There's a fight or flight response, isn't there? So
yeah,
mentally you're not thinking the same way.
Absolutely, and the fight or flight response is so pervasive. And that's really the stress, where the stress comes in, because you get the stress shooting up, and you get extremely good perception of things all around you. But it doesn't mean that you perceive of everything. It's just for threat perception. So you might remember, for example, if someone, God forbid, points a gun at you, you might remember the gun with perfect detail and relief, and no face of the gunman, or no surroundings. Or it could go the other way. You could perhaps remember the gunman really well, but nothing else. So it gets sort of like tunnel vision for many people. And then you get this release of adrenaline that can potentially give you superpowers depending on how big the shot is of adrenaline. And then you make a choice, fight or flight. And, goes on from there. And the biggest problem we have in today's society when it comes to stress is that you get this mechanism triggered But because you are in situations where neither flight nor fight will solve the problem for you anymore, because civilization has advanced, blah, 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 you are left with the first part of the mechanism and you get no relief. So all the toxins that come from the stress cannot be expelled in a way. And you get all the problems from stress and all of that. So.
Yeah, how awful. That's really unfortunate.
It is. we are equipped with mammoth level situational defenses, but not with when that mammoth is your boss. So.
Yes, stress can be very debilitating. Do you think people relieve stress by watching horror films?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really? See, horror films for me, especially if they're really well done, I mean, and when I say well done, I mean they're very well made in that they are able to induce feelings of various things. They just make me feel depressed and sad and bad. So they don't relieve any feelings or make me feel excited or interested. They just make me feel terrible. So I hate horror films. And this is pretty much universal, unless it's funny. Yeah. Unless it's a funny one or silly.
And that is the amazing thing. Like if you fulfill a need, right? By watching the horror film. And usually that is either to get your brain to produce the chemicals that you want, that you get from the fight or flight response, and also the catharsis that comes from it. And that doesn't necessarily mean vindication. It's just that something gets resolved in this particular fight or flight fashion. So that releases, like, the mechanism doesn't care if you get a happy ending or not, as long as you get an ending. Right? Mm-hmm. So the situation completes itself. It resolves. So horror usually grants you that. So not everyone does this, but some people that watch horror do it because it has a very beneficial calming effect after the fact, because they have completed the cycle of the fight or flight. So there is that. That's one thing. Others feel that they can experience survival of fears in a padded room, quote unquote. In the sense that we know that it is a movie, we know that it is a book or a story or whatever, and that we will eventually come out of it, so we are safe. We can be exposed to terror. We can be exposed to fear and experience it with impunity. So that's another thing.
Interesting. I get what you're saying. It's a safe experience, vicarious thing, like a holodeck on the Star Trek kind of stuff.
Or people talk about, like the roller coaster, the danger of a roller coaster to get that experience.
Yeah.
Fear, but it should be safe.
That's a good analogy. For me, I don't know if I'm a weird one, but for things I watch, yes, I am. I'm quite weird generally. But for things I watch, I often become too involved with the characters. And when I'm watching it, I'm thinking of these characters as real people, even though I know they're obviously actors, and this is all like, a set and people wearing costumes and their effects and stuff like that. Something switches in my brain and I immediately think of them as real people, having a real situation. So what I'm witnessing to things, that happen to them, it affects me far more strongly in that, say it's an embarrassing situation or something like that. I feel real, nervousness and embarrassment for them, so much so that I often can't watch it. I need to stop it and then, do something else and then come back to it and turn it right down so it doesn't affect me too much. Or if it's, say, something horror, something bad happening to someone, same kind of thing. It affects me really deeply. That's why I feel so bad when I watch horror films, because I identify with what I'm seeing too strongly. So I don't know whether other people do that, but that's for me.
That is like people that have a lot of immersion in the story and identify with the characters and sort of feel for the characters, have empathy for the characters, will not like horror. Chances are they will not like horror. So there you go.
Yeah. So it's not uncommon then.
I have that reaction to true. I've said before. I think like reading true crime. I can watch some true crime documentaries sometimes, but reading vivid things or watching vivid things about real murders and real horrors can't really do it. It's way too upsetting.
There you go. Because you will empathize with real people.
Yeah.
So.
And if a piece of fiction triggers that, Oz, I think I'd probably have the same reaction and the same movement.
It can be very hard to separate myself. The thing has to be very, very stylized in order for me to be able to make it a bit easier to separate myself. That's why, we were talking before about the Nun. I'm far more easily able to separate myself from that, and that doesn't make me feel bad because it's so stylized. And, in the 80s kind of way that horror films are, which is over the top and just crazy. And that way it's a lot easier to separate myself from that. Whereas when something is not so stylized, it's a lot harder.
Yeah. I generally am not a fan. I mean, I'm a fan of thriller more than horror, in the sense that if we talk about horror like splatter films and stuff, I don't really like that. But I do like horror if it has a vindication in the end. So I remember watching Red Snow and Red Snow 2, which is about zombies that pop, like Nazi zombies that pop up and rampage through certain towns in the Midwest, or I don't remember exactly where in the US, but somewhere there. And no, it couldn't be the Midwest because it is very snowy day. So
I thought it was
the mountains or something. I saw the first one. Yeah.
Wasn't it Finland
so the
or
first
something?
one, it is very well done. The first one I hated. Why? Because it leaves you, I will not spoil it per se, but it leaves you with no vindication. There is so much build up, and then everything doesn't go where it should go, in my opinion. And I hated that. I would be able to go through the entire movie and enjoy it if I knew that the main characters do what they're supposed to do and blah blah. However, the second one does that, and it also has like Nazi zombies versus communist zombies, which is hilarious. I highly recommend it because they whoever did it, like hats off to whoever wrote this thing. It is horror comedy as well, I guess, so that helped. Whereas the first one, not so much. I mean, it does have some comedic elements, but it's not even a black comedy, where the second one is definitely horror. You are horrified. But you also laugh. You also laugh a lot. And in the end, you have a resolution that you can live with. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And I really liked that. So I enjoyed that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen the second one. I saw the first, but I don't even remember how it ends. I don't remember any.
Not well.
Oh, well, yeah, sounds like. Yeah.
But yeah, the second one I highly recommend. I think that you will enjoy it, Pains, a lot.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, I'll look for it.
It gets some laughs. Like it has good, at least as I remember it, it has good slapstick.
Wow.
Elegant slapstick, I'm saying.
Yeah.
The zombies are hilarious. Although they are scary, they are also hilarious. So.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, horror comedy, rather than just horror that is like inadvertently funny, but horror comedy is quite a renowned, and famous genre. I really appreciate that because it takes away the nastiness of it and makes it funny, which is really good. And there's so many like entries into that genre. Like you have things like The Munsters and Addams Family, which is more comedy than horror. But it's based on horror tropes. Like there's disembodied hands and there's all sorts of stuff like that. But they are right on the comedy end. But there's things all the way in between, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the original, not the TV series with Sarah Michelle Gellar, but the movie, which is classic horror comedy. That's just one of many examples. But yeah, I can definitely watch those. I love that. I love the proper traditional horror comedy. There's often there's a crossover. There's bad horror can very easily slide into horror comedy, and that's always been like something like Halloween or Friday the 13th. They're always like sliding towards comedy because they're very silly. Don't you find that, Baines?
Oh yeah, I would say like Friday the 13th. It's very rarely scary. I've always loved Friday the 13th franchise, a lot of it anyway, and yeah, it's never been particularly scary. It's never been particularly hilarious either. But yeah, it's sort of you laugh at it and with it. And it's not real, It's I don't know what the pleasure of it is. I'm not really totally sure because I don't love gore. So, yeah.
I think that it is creative with situations, and he is sort of like a boogeyman, like a ghoul.
Yeah.
What's the actualizes certain urban legends that are more or less permeate all cultures, more or less, a little bit. So I think that's why it is.
That's well said. Michael Myers too, and yeah, Jason is the boogeyman. I think at its basic DNA, of like the most basic ones, and my favorite one is part 2. It's quite simple. Jason has a sack on his head. People know it's very simple, but it's sort of perfect for what it is supposed to be, kind of thing. And yeah, he's the boogeyman, and people are being taken. You anticipate, and I would say there's some tension in that one, maybe more than most of the others. So that helps you a little bit.
I appreciated the first one more than anything because that was so close to the Grendel story, which I like.
I appreciate that one too, for sure. It's good, yeah.
And you don't have the big monster in that. It's really weird because the mother is the true monster and all that kind of stuff. I just love that. Yeah, that Grendelness to it.
Yeah, and that's very well said. That is the Grendel story.
And of course,
absolutely.
Going back to Grendel then, which is that's an ancient horror story from, I don't know, it's over 1,000 years old. Yeah, Beowulf. There we are. Beowulf. So that's like 1,500 years old, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a fantastic story about, okay, obviously Beowulf is the big hero there, and it's about him specifically, but what Grendel does is horrific. No one can stop him. It's this unstoppable monster that slaughters everyone indiscriminately. And Beowulf doesn't fight him with a sword. Beowulf fights him hand to hand, barehanded, and rips his arm off or something, doesn't he?
Yeah.
From memory.
Yeah.
Like barehanded. That's horrific. Even the hero's horrific.
Yeah. The hero isn't necessarily super heroic, at least to me he always came across as a bit of a douche. But yeah.
Yeah, he is. But yeah, so then he slaughters Grendel, but Grendel's not the ultimate monster. It's Grendel's mum, and he has to go to some kind of underwater cave or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a terrifying story. So yeah, that's a fantastic one in the annals of horror from the ancient days. So that's Beowulf. Anyway, like horror stories are like pretty timeless, aren't they? There's so many of them, but not so many in history.
You could say that most original fairy tales are horror stories.
Yeah, they are, aren't they?
They are not children friendly. So.
Well, yeah, there's Snow White, which is no, not Snow White, Cinderella, where the stepsisters cut off their feet in order to fit in the shoes. That's
in
pretty
Snow
scary.
White, the evil stepmother eventually, if I remember right, she cuts off her hands.
Wow.
Stuff like that. Yeah, it goes really dark really quickly after the attempts with the apple and stuff. And then she grows them back, the hands. So
that's weird in itself. Yeah, there's a lot of scary stories in that kind of vein. Like there's that horrible one about the farmer and his wife and the dog that won't stop barking. So the farmer starts cutting up the dog piece by piece to stop it barking.
Oh my god.
And in the end, because the dog was barking to keep the murderers away or something like that, or wolves, I can't remember, something like that. But yeah, the farmers cut up the dog so much that it can't warn them anymore, and they come and they kill the farmer. So it's
Whoa! Wow.
scary story. But you know, there's that cartoon that was on Nickelodeon. I think it's called Courage the Cowardly Dog, and that was based on that horrible story.
Oh. And there was this, and even if you take, for example, Hansel and Gretel, you have this witch that lures kids and eats them, and that's stranger danger.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they kill her by shoving her into an oven.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness me.
Where they were going to end up. So someone gets cannibalized.
It's scary all around. But yeah, it's not just straight out scary mythological stories or fairy stories. There's like ancient Greek tragedies are freaking scary. Like the story of Oedipus.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
horrific.
That's when the gods mess with you. That's also very, very funny.
Yeah.
With in Greece, since the ancient times, we had such existential dread. So you had the prophecies, like oracles, that would give this horrific prophecy, and the whole thing is that the hero tries to avert the prophecy, and what they do to avoid it makes it happen. So that a lot of that happens.
Yeah, which is what Oedipus is all about.
Yeah. And not just Oedipus. So many others. The story, I try to remember if it is Perseus. I think it's Perseus. Who, wait a second, I'll just check real quick. The son of Danae, who it was.
Perseus, of course, killed Medusa.
Yeah, Perseus. It was Perseus. So his mom and he go through all the troubles of his childhood because the grandfather got this oracle that the grandson was going to kill him, like Perseus was going to kill him. So he got scared, but because Perseus was the son of Zeus, because he had, gone in as a golden rain in the room, blah, 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 all of that. He was too scared to actually kill the daughter and the grandson, because then Zeus would be pissed off. So he just tried to kill them by circumstance and shove them in this box, and then shove the box in the sea and all that. But in the end, he didn't know who his grandson was, and he got killed by him anyway. And it was an accident. All of it was an accident.
Final destination. It's fated to happen. You can't stop fate.
And the thing is that sometimes if you roll with it, it might change in the sense that if you stop being like a douchebag trying to survive, maybe you will survive. That's the general moral of these stories. You will see that characters who evade fate are the ones that are not afraid of death. So there is another story about this couple that were very much in love, and Admetos and Alcestis. So the guy dies, and the wife is devastated, cannot tolerate the idea that she will be a widow, and of course he dies in a very grisly way because, of course, he does. And she goes downstairs to Hades, and Persephone, and she, says how devastated she is and all of that, and because both of these gods are saps, they are big softies. They say, okay, fine, we are going to try and help you and return your husband to you, but someone has to come and take his place. So she goes back up really happy. She tells the grieving parents, you know what, one of you takes his place and he comes back to life. And the parents refuse. So that's a thing. And anyway, bottom line, in the end, she says that I will take this place. She goes downstairs to stay. And I will not spoil the rest of the story. Oh, I will actually. But in the end, they get to live together until they grow old together, and then they die together, so that we don't have more of that drama. So, yeah, the one that didn't care to avoid death is the one that won life.
Oh, goodness me. Okay, well then that works then. Excellent. Alright, well I can't think of any similar stories from other myths. I mean, okay, so a good one of that, like the fated death, is like what was it? The famous story in Norse mythology about who's the one who dies? The really handsome one that everyone loves. What's that?
Sigmund.
No, he's a hero. It's a god. So there's this god that everyone Freya,
Oh, yes.
it's her son, and she loves him, and he's the most beautiful god ever. He's this lovely, lovely guy. Everyone loves him.
Wait a second, find him quick.
So her thing is like she really wants to protect him, and she loves him so much she doesn't want anything bad to happen. So she goes and she makes everything in the whole world promise not to harm him. And it does. Everything promises, like snails, sand, bits of rock on the ground. Everything promises not to harm him. But Balder, there we are, Balder. So everything promises not to harm Balder, but she forgets to ask the willow that for some reason. And I think it's the willow. And the thing is, well,
mistletoe.
Mistletoe? Okay.
Either holly or mistletoe, one of the two, I think.
All right. So
I'll take it quick.
So the mistletoe. The thing is, like, it doesn't seem to matter because mistletoe can't kill you anyway because it's it's floppy and it doesn't produce hard kind of sticks or whatever that can stab into you and kill you. So they don't worry about the mistletoe. So everything's promised, and the Norse gods are really kind of stupid people. Well, they are, and the Aes are pretty stupid, and the Norse were a pretty rough bunch. So for fun, what these gods do is Balder will sort of stand in the middle, and everyone will try and kill him with everything because they know they can't kill him. So it's a hilarious game where they smack him with swords and axes and rocks and trees and everything like that. And Balder's having a great time. He's laughing and everyone's laughing. And they're trying to brutally murder him because he knows he can't die. So these morons. So Loki, the trickster god, comes along and thinks, haha, wouldn't it be funny if someone actually, hit him with some mistletoe? Wouldn't that be hilarious? So he gives it to, I think, Hod.
What a prank.
I think Hod, the blind god, because there's a god that can't see. He's blind. He's a great like singer and poet and all this kind of stuff, but he can't see. And so Loki gives him the mistletoe because he can't even see what it is anyway. And this god, he's joining him with the game with the rest of him, goes and stabs poor old Balder with this thing, and Balder immediately dies. And it goes from being a fun kind of game to being a terrible tragedy. And Loki feels bad because he didn't, really mean to kill him. But yeah, this becomes a terrible, terrible thing, and it turns to tragedy straight away. And like Freya's thing where, she's just trying to cheat death for Balder fails, and death finds poor old Balder, and he gets whisked off to Helheim, which is the terrible place where people go when they die, rather than going to Asgard and across the Rainbow Bridge or whatever. Valhalla, yeah, that's the one. They go to Helheim, and that's not the end of the story. They go and petition Hel, who is in charge of Helheim, which is Loki's daughter, she's got a face of half skull and half, proper face. And they petition her to return Balder, and she refuses because no one who goes to Helheim is allowed to leave. So that's just the law. And she's not evil the way people portray people who are in charge of death as being. Because I don't think in very many cultures the Lord of Death is evil. I think it's a pretty recent thing. So yeah, she's just following the rules. Sorry, no. He's my... Everybody who goes into my realm is mine. So yeah, unfortunately, Velda stays dead. And that's the end of Velda.
He sort of stays dead. He's supposed to come back after Ragnarok.
Oh yes, that's a weird... I don't know, I sort of suspect that's a weird Christianized version of the Norse religion, yeah, because all the gods die in Ragnarok, but we have them replaced by some new gods, and yeah, things are reformed, and it's very...
I mean, most of the mythology was transcribed by monks, so...
Snorri Sturluson and one other guy. Snorri Sturluson in Iceland and Saxo Grammaticus in Denmark, I think. So these were the two religious guys who transcribed different versions of it, and yes, they were from a Christian culture. So yeah, things that they were looking at it through a very different lens.
Yeah. They had to obey a lot of rules so that they wouldn't get excommunicated and stuff. All of them, not just these guys.
Well, Saxo actually believed that the Aesir, as we do now, we sort of look at things from the past and we interpret things saying, oh, maybe this was a symbol for that, or this really meant that. And so what Saxo thought was that, actually, no, Aesir, it sounds like Asia. So maybe the ancient Norse who worshipped this were actually thinking about these group of people who came from Asia. So that's what it's based on. We seriously thought that.
Maybe, who knows? Maybe he's right.
Oh dear, I always find that hilarious. Well, yeah, so we've digressed a little bit. Has anyone read Sandman ever? So this is a comic based in Dream. Oh my God, Baines, you're the hero of the Quackcast. What did you think of it?
Oh, it's great. It's really something special in comics and highly recommended. Of course, it's highly recommended by anyone.
It's as good as people say?
Oh, it's great. It's really great. There are parts of it that are truly horrific that make me... I think I've read the series twice, and it's really good.
Wow.
And very literate. I'm sure you guys would appreciate a lot of things that I don't pick up on, and it's got plenty of, Neil Gaiman is an amazing writer and all this stuff. But yeah, there are a few moments in it that are that kind of stayed with me, and they're kind of horrible to think about. They still pop up in my mind 20 years after reading the thing. So.
Jeez.
I don't know if I'll revisit it. What's that?
That is high praise.
Yes.
Have you seen...
And some wonderful moments, too, that still come up. Amazing. Yeah, it's about the character is the Lord of Dreams. They're sort of anthropomorphic personifications of sort of aspects of reality are the major characters. We're mainly focused on Dream. Morpheus, who is sort of the Lord of Dreams. And we see his realm. Such cool ideas as far as world building and stuff. He has on his property or in his realm is a library of every book that was never written.
Oh,
so it's so cool and sort of inspires the imagination and everything. He has a battle with Lucifer that's kind of unforgettable in the comic. I've never seen the show. I don't know if I will, but the character who his sister is Death. Who's this punk rock character who you guys were talking about maybe on Patreon or before we came on. Very cool character as well. They both kind of look like 80s goth punk rock the other siblings all look a little different. But, yeah, it's really good.
I'll definitely check it out as soon as possible. I really feel I'm behind in all of my comic reading.
Didn't he do The Crow as well? Neil Gaiman, wasn't it?
I don't know. It would fit in with his stuff, but I don't know.
Well, the TV adaptation for Netflix is very good, although they didn't make the character look the way he did in the comic, which I didn't like. And the most horrific part that I saw in that, I don't know whether there are other series or whatever after. The first series that I watched, but the most horrific part was the one with David Thewlis, who is a famous British actor. But he plays this person who can influence the way people think. And they've got no choice but to do what he wants them to do. And that is terrifying. And he kind of just like enhances their whims or things they want to do. And he forces them to complete those things and to complete those paths of those, those lowered inhibitions and those things they're always thinking about doing. And that's just, oh my God, that was horrific. So I don't know if there was a character like that, Baines, in the comic. Well, there probably was. It's based on the comic, so.
Yeah, maybe they're from Sandman, you mean?
Yep.
I'm trying to remember. There are scenes and moments where people are compelled, where humans are compelled, and it's impossible to resist. That specific character, I'm trying to remember. I mean, Preacher has that power, but that's a different series.
Oh my God, Preacher! Ugh, I saw the. I've never read it, but I saw the TV adaptation of it, part of it, and it's just I can't watch it. It's too horrific for me.
Yeah, it's probably not your cup of tea at all.
I can't even watch The Boys.
Yeah.
Why do they keep doing these horrible things?
I don't know.
Jeez.
There's also a Jessica Jones villain. I don't know if you saw that Netflix show.
Oh my God, I couldn't even watch that. I watched part of it, and then it was just too horrific for me to see.
Yeah, he has that power.
It's David Tennant in that.
It's very creepy.
Oh. Can't see. Yeah, horrific freaking thing. It's just... None of these shows are made for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't seen any of these. I mean, I don't have Netflix, so there's that.
I don't anymore either. Yeah, this is a few years ago.
Jessica Jones is on Disney Plus, I think.
Speaking of losing control of your body, there was a very the closest it ever came to horror in The Last Airbender, the original cartoon. Was when it's an episode in the third and last season, where 2 episodes, not bad, where Katara, who is the girl that water bends, that can control water, learns this new skill where she can bend the blood in someone's body, and that makes her the puppeteer of anyone she wants.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah, and she is taught this skill by this very deranged psychopathic waterbender that is basically she has been broken. She has been through torture and stuff. She has been reduced to this ghoulish creature of revenge that developed this skill. And she teaches it to Katara, one of the main characters, and she is horrified by the effect. And the entire episode is her facing off this waterbender that can control people like this.
Ooh.
And the horror of having your body being controlled and you are awake and aware and can do nothing about it. So, yeah, so that is effectively scary in a kids show.
Speaking of that, there's the zombie myth that the modern zombie myth is a bit silly, like reanimated dead people. That's which has nothing to do with like the original zombie myths, which are basically people who are like mind controlled, pretty much. And I think there's these popular pop culture things, The Last of Us, and that's sort of based on the idea of like there's a fungus that can control people's brains, and that is based on the scientific reality of this fungus called cordyceps, which seems to control insects, especially ants. But the funny thing is that cordyceps can't control the brain and make creatures do things. That's a myth. No, there's no fungus that can control a brain. What actually happens is cordyceps infects the body and controls the muscles. But these ants would still be aware as long as their brains are functional, because it doesn't control the brains at all. It controls their bodies and they're not able to do anything. And the cordyceps forces these ants to leave the nest and to climb up high on something in order to be eaten and killed, so the cordyceps can continue its life cycle. So that's far more horrific than the idea of a brain-controlling fungus. This is So if there can't be a version that can control humans or bigger creatures, even like lizards and things like that. It just doesn't work that way. But if there could be, then that would be a thing that controls your body, and your body, you can't control your body because there's like fungus ligaments and things like that moving your body without your ability to control it. Yeah, that's horrific, isn't it? It's scary. But there
is also the jewel wasp that injects venom into cockroaches and then controls them. And basically commands the roaches to come into its nest where they are eaten alive by the offspring of the jewel wasp. So there's also that.
Wow.
Yes, a lot of insects do a whole lot of nasty things to each other, don't they? They really do. Mm-hmm. Like the ones that inject the babies into their eggs into living spiders, so the spider remains awake and aware until these things burst out and eat their way out, like the alien.
Yeah,
and that's freaking common. It means the spider stays fresh for the things to incubate in, fresh and warm, because it's still alive. That's horrific.
Yeah, there's a lot of horror in nature that people just are not directly or immediately aware of, and now with researching the stuff for Verdant, I have had my fill. Let's say that.
Oh yes, everything to do with insects is horrible. Horrible. I was just going to say, with the cordyceps stuff, there's another part to that story. So cordyceps forces these ants to kill themselves, basically, to climb up on something. And what happens is they don't get eaten by a thing. I think the spore explodes out of them, right? It develops into a horn on top of their head. They climb up onto this tall piece of grass at the entrance to the ant, anthill or whatever, and then that thing explodes, and the spores infect all the other ants, and this ant can't do anything to stop it. But there's another story to that, because there's another fungus that once cordyceps infects something, this infects the ants that has cordyceps, and this coats the entire body. So when the spore explodes, it doesn't go anywhere because it's covered in this thing that coats the body. So that's a fungus that parasites on cordyceps and stops it. So that's why all ant colonies everywhere aren't infected by cordyceps, because there's other funguses that stop it, which is incredible.
They also do isolate, by the way, as well. I mean, there have been a lot of instances documented where an infected ant is not welcome in the hive anymore, or whatever it's called, in the nest, and it is pushed away and kept away at a safe distance from the colony. So there's that, and then we have the parasite that infects the slugs and makes them swell their antenna and pulsate like worms, so that they can be eaten by the actual host of the parasite, that are birds. So nice. No horror at all in nature.
No. Oh my God.
Then there's the semi-mythical idea of the toxoplasmosis, which is a bacterial infection in rats, and apparently it makes the rats act in certain ways that are more attractive to be eaten by cats, and so it's meant to be mind controlling them in certain ways that makes them more favourable to be eaten by cats. And then the cats will eat them, and then the cats will have the toxoplasmosis in them, and the toxoplasmosis is able to continue its life cycle. But the mythical idea is that, obviously humans can get toxoplasmosis, which can be a very, very bad disease for some people. It's called cat scratch fever. That's another name for it. But it can be absolutely not harmful at all to an adult human, but it can be very, very deadly to a pregnant lady and her child, and AIDS victims, people who have a compromised immune system. But the mythical idea is that it will also control the human and make them more like affectionate to cats and all this kind of stuff, and that continues the toxoplasmosis life cycle. But of course it doesn't. There's no evidence that it, credible evidence that it controls the actions of a human, and it couldn't anyway, because that's really not very logical that it would have such complicated abilities to control actions. I mean, of a rat, making it do things that are more changing its lifestyle in a way that will make a cat catch it. Yes, it's very, very simple for something to do that. That's very, very logical. There's not very many steps to do that, but to make a human more affectionate towards cats and stuff like that, that's just ridiculous. There's no steps in order. It's too much. Anyway,
we don't need any help to be more affectionate to cats. They are literally cartoons. rounded features, like big eyes, small mouths.
Yes.
Furry, snuggly, purring thing.
Exactly. I mean, if
we don't need any more help.
If it did make the cats more affectionate to us, or us more affectionate towards cats, then everybody would be more affectionate. You wouldn't have all the people who hate cats, because they'd be so easily affected by this stuff. So, yeah.
Hey, this stuff would be great in a piece of fiction, though. Unbelievable or illogical, just a little tweak. Great stories out of that.
Yeah.
Just enough scientific grounding to give it, enough plausibility. That's how they do it.
Scientific grounding for things makes great horror.
Yeah. Because it allows people to kind of believe it, or believe it enough.
It's easier to suspend your disbelief. The Thing has got just enough.
That's
like when you watch it, you sort of you believe it almost.
Yeah.
Although that's one of the horror films I really love because it's stylized enough that it's not, you don't feel for the characters as if they're real people. Because it's just too crazy.
So over the top, yeah.
That is a freaking awesome horror film. Biological horror film. Well, we should wrap this up. Oh, I'll just say...
Wrap this up like a jewel wasp wraps up a cockroach.
Yes. Like a spider wraps up a fly. But I will say...
Thanks for that new information, by the way, Tantz. I had to look it up. Oh my god. That's truly terrifying.
It is. I have lots more where that came from, and they are just as horrific. Yeah. Just, you don't need to come up with horror, guys. Nature has you covered. That's how I'm verdant.
More than anything. Although, I will say the horror that I absolutely cannot watch, that I despise, that I hate, is what they call torture porn, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
No. I can't either. It's terrifying.
Like Hostel and something, Wolf Creek and all that.
It feels, that's a good term, it really feels like you are watching a specifically, like even like a porn that is worse than porn potentially could be. Because at least porn is about a natural process that humans have.
One way of describing, yes. That's
Yeah, I mean, everyone does it one way or the other.
yes.
But torture is not. And it's like, it invites you to partake in it in essence, and I hate it. I cannot tolerate it at all. No.
Yeah, the Saw as well. That's part of that.
Yeah.
Just what's the?
I haven't never seen it. I generally don't like to see pain inflicted in helpless situations, like someone is immobilized and then pain happens. That I hate that. I hate I mean, you could have displays of huge pain, but within a conflict or within like in a fight or whatever, that I could be okay with.
Yeah.
But having someone, kicking someone when they're down, for me that is just cannot ever be entertainment in any way. So.
No, the same. Yeah, well, there was the other one, the Human Centipede. That's
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah. No desire to ever see that.
I actually haven't seen it, but I did see a review of it, and that was enough for me. I didn't need anything else. No.
Yeah, same. Just hearing what it was, okay, that's more than enough. I don't need to watch it.
Yeah, it's like, thank you, okay.
Yeah, thank you for putting that in my mind.
yeah. I'm never gonna see it. I've seen like clips of it that show, like in review shows and stuff like that. And yeah, it's not for me. No, the only thing that the only like slight funny thing for me is the lead actor in the Human Centipede, and I think in most of the series, because there's a few of them who plays the
doctor. Oh my god, there's more of them.
Yeah. The guy who plays the evil doctor is this I think he's German, or he could be like Czech or something, but he almost can't speak English. His accent is terrible, and that's he's not doing that deliberately. He's really bad. But he's in Lex, which is my favourite sci-fi series. And he's in an entire season, for episodes and episodes. And I think it's in the second season of Lex.
Really?
Yeah, he's playing the evil Dr. Mantrid. And he's fantastic in that. So I'm glad he was able to find a lot of fame in the Human Centipede series.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, props to him, and I'm glad that he's got a career. But The Human Centipede is one of the few movies I would actually consider. Like, I would love if it was never made, and I would consider actually banning. And I'm very much against banning anything. But this particular thing, it's like, oh my god. Like, it shouldn't exist. No.
It's quite...
It would be High School Musical for me.
Oh my god, Baines, Jesus, you're going another level there. That's pure evil.
Either, but just with the caveat.
Like it breaks my brain. I think it's obvious.
Yeah. It's one of those things. Like, I was kind of getting at a little bit in talking about Sandman. There are certain bits of it. It's as great as it is. It's like, I don't want that. I kind of wish. I mean, I kind of like it, I guess, but I kind of wish it wasn't in my brain. I wish I didn't see some of those things and didn't have to think about them once in a while. Human Centipede is one of those.
Yes.
Honestly, I would want to seek out whoever created, like, had the idea and get him therapy, or the hair, or whoever, however he, she, they identify. Therapy.
Right.
Therapy forever, please.
Exactly.
Therapy forever.
That will be their hell.
I sentence you.
They'll be locked into, therapy eternally.
Yeah. Therapy forever. That's for him.
Alright, let's wrap it up then. The Horror Quackcast. Go and see the video because it's free for all you guys to watch. And we'll link to it in the notes if I remember.
Yeah.
Which I should. Yeah, like you have your permission to kick me if I don't. And you'll see us looking fantastic and just talking about ourselves because we're a bunch of narcissistic wankers.
Exactly.
So go for it.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, yes. At the same time.
Happy Halloween. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.